The millionaire freezes when he finds out his girlfriend was actually a black beggar woman. William's world shattered in an instant. It wasn't the skyscraper view, the glittering city lights, or even the clinking crystal glasses from his penthouse dinner party that stopped him cold. It was the secret he uncovered about Emily. The calm, smiling Emily who worked at the pharmacy down the block. The woman he thought he knew inside out. The woman he loved. He sat there, hand gripping his wine glass so tightly his knuckles paled. The room around him buzzed with muffled traffic, distant sirens slicing through the night. But to William, it all blurred. His chest felt tight, like a storm was brewing behind his ribs, and his mind raced, yet froze at the same time. How could she? How did he miss this? Emily, the down-to-earth girl with a smile that warmed him, was once a beggar woman. A black beggar woman. The words echoed in his head, sharp and unrelenting. The truth stumbled out like some twisted tale. A black woman who had walked through fire, grown up in the forgotten alleys of the city, surviving on scraps and shadows. Then, secretly, she climbed out of the darkness, hiding her past beneath a modest pharmacy uniform and quiet dreams of a better life. That image clashed violently with everything he had built. His silver spoons, his gold towers, his trust in her. Fragile and battered by old heartbreaks and jealousy from Lisa, his ex who whispered poison in his ear, was now collapsing. A sharp silence fell over their dinner table. Emily's eyes darted away as Emily's family secrets slipped into the conversation like unwelcome ghosts. Her hands trembled slightly, clutching her glass, a faint sheen of sweat on her brow. William noticed everything. The awkward pauses, the clinking cutlery, too loud in the stillness. His experiment to live like a poor man for a week had started as a bizarre test to see if Emily loved him beyond his fort. William's voice caught every time he tried to say something, his own insecurities roaring louder than the city below. What if she wanted him only for the money? Or worse, what if he couldn't accept her truth? Then, out of nowhere, a message popped up on William's phone. No name, no warning, just words that ignited a fresh fire of suspicion deep inside. She's not who you think. Watch closely. His hands quivered, heart pounding so loud it felt like the city had fallen silent just for him to hear. And just when he thought he might regain some control, a sudden revelation tore the fragile veil away. A hidden chapter of Emily's past, never spoken, raw and painful because of the color of her skin and the struggles she fought alone, burst into his world like thunder. The weight of it crushed any normalcy left in the room. Emily stood quiet, caught at a crossroads all her own. William's breath hitched. Could he break down the walls built of fear, jealousy, and mistrust? Could he finally live beyond the shadows of his past and grasp the woman in front of him, flawed, fierce, and real? Or would this secret, dark and deep, shatter the fragile hope they clung to like a lifeline? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube has removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss out on any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know all the amazing people who are part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. William's breath hitched as he stared into Emily's eyes, the truth still hanging heavy between them. Just as he gathered his thoughts, William's heart raced. In an instant, the buzz of the city faded, replaced by a stark reality cracking at the edges of their intense moment. He stood abruptly, instincts kicking in. What was that? He rushed to the window, looking out. And then, chaos. Sirens blared, flashes of blue and red lighting up his penthouse like a bad dream. People rushed past on the street, some screaming, some crying. He could barely make sense of it, but a cloud of panic hung thick in the air. "William, what's going on?" Emily's voice trembled as she joined him. He turned back to her, confusion and fear reflected in their eyes, but also an unsettling bond. Their lives suddenly tangled in this unforeseen storm. Before he could answer, a loud bang shook the building. The sound jolted his senses. It felt like an explosion, a deep rumbling growl that reverberated through the walls. Something dark and menacing was happening. But what? Suddenly, a figure appeared around the corner of the building, barreling into view. Tall and dressed in black, they were shouting something. It was all a blur. A crowd started gathering, their faces painted with dread and intrigue. William's chest tightened. He needed to know. "Stay here," he shouted to Emily, but she grabbed his arm, fear widening her eyes. "I'm coming with you." They rushed together towards the door, their hearts pounding in sync. Each step felt heavier as they descended the stairs. The noise from the street grew louder, a writhing mass of chaos. What met them outside was beyond comprehension. A crowd surged backward, and in the middle of it all was a scene straight out of a horror film. A man on the ground, blood pooling around him, a stark crimson against the gray pavement. Sirens wailed, distorting the air, and voices echoed in panic. William felt like the ground had dropped beneath him. "What happened?" He turned to Emily, but she seemed transfixed, her eyes darting between the chaos and the man. "Will, look!" she choked out, pointing. He followed her gaze just in time to witness something unfathomable. The man on the pavement was familiar. It was her brother, Jeremiah, the one she had mentioned only in whispers. "Jeremiah!" Emily cried, breaking through the pressing crowd. William's mind spun. He remembered Emily's vague remarks about her family, but she never fully shared her life before him. The layers began peeling back, and he was left in a swirl of confusion. As they stumbled towards him, fists tightened with rage and the flutter of disbelief, a police officer stepped in front. "Back away!" he yelled, but William was already moving forward, dragging Emily with him. "Is he alive?" she screamed, desperate. The officer shook his head, not at them, but at something deeper. Just then, a figure pushed through the throng, a woman with wild, frizzy hair, eyes blazing with fury and pain. "You thought you could hide forever, Emily?" she shouted, pointing a finger like an arrow. "You think this is over?" The air thickened, filled with dread. William felt the heat of her words. Emily's face went pale, a different kind of fear crossing her features. one he had never seen before. "Who are you?" he barely managed to whisper, though he feared the answer. But the woman just smiled, a cruel twist of lips. "The past always catches up. And now it's your turn, William." His throat tightened, breaths shallow. In that moment, everything he thought he knew began to crumble. Emily, once the warm light in his life, now shrouded in shadows he couldn't understand. And as they stood there, hearts racing, he realized he was no longer sure who the real Emily was, or what secrets lay buried, waiting to explode. William's heart raced, confusion blooming into fear as he stood frozen, the chaos around him blurring into a haze. Emily's brother lay motionless, and the anger crackling from the woman was like an electric shock jolting through the crowd. "Who are you?" he managed to repeat, his voice barely above a whisper, thick with dread. Her crooked smile only deepened, teeth flashing like daggers. "Did you really think you could just whisk Emily away from her past? Come on, William. You have no idea what she's hiding. No idea the truth will come for you both. Eventually." Yet before he could challenge her, a deafening siren pierced the air, louder than the last. Police cars screeched to a halt, their lights cutting through the night like a knife. Officers jumped out, shoving through onlookers with urgency, faces set with grim determination. A knot of panic twisted in William's stomach. "Stay back!" a commanding voice boomed from the officers as they pushed him and Emily aside. But William couldn't ignore the woman. "What do you mean, truth? What have you done?" he shouted, desperation seeping through him. Just as the lady sneered, poised to deliver another cruel blow, a sharp sound echoed pure dread. A gunshot rang out. Time froze. The chaos erupted around him like a firework, bodies thrashing, screams unfolding like paper. Emily yanked his arm, just as he spotted a dark figure in the crowd. A man, hidden beneath a black hoodie, moving quickly, eyes darting like a snake. "Get down!" Emily yelled, her voice slicing through the din. They dropped to the ground, a collective gasp from the surrounding throng, creating a symphony of fear. William felt the thud of his heart, in time with the distant bass of the sirens. "Jeremiah!" Emily cried, scrambling towards her brother. Frantic, she tried to push past the barricade of officers. "He needs me! Let me through!" But her voice drowned in the rising tide of chaos. William grabbed her arm, face pale, dread tumbling through his mind. "No, Emily, stay with me!" Suddenly, a gruff officer shouted, "We need to evacuate the area!" "Move!" The cold reality hit him. The crowd, the panic, the gunmen. Then came the unexpected twist. A blinding explosion erupted alongside the police car. Fire, smoke, chaos. It all merged into an inferno of screams and confusion. William felt Emily's hand slip from his grip as he was thrown backwards. "Emily!" he screamed, mind racing, searching the frantic crowd. But she was lost to him, swallowed by a surge of bodies, fleeing in terror. In that moment of pure terror and confusion, William's heart stopped when he caught eyes with the woman. She wasn't just someone from Emily's past. Her face twisted in a knowing smile that split him in two. "You didn't think I'd let her go that easily, did you?" What was happening? His insides lurched. Emily! She's not just a beggar. She's more involved than you think, she said, her voice low and sinister, cutting through the sound of sirens and shouts. Stop! William gasped, struggling to piece together the shattered puzzle of his life. She leaned closer, her words dripping with venom. You have no idea what you're in the middle of. Her family has ties, dark ones, and now they're coming for you both. Before he could respond, the smoke engulfed them, the flames licking hungrily towards the sky, and just like that, the scene shifted. Panic surged like a tide, bodies stumbling. William's breath quickened as he fought against the crowd, desperate to find Emily, desperate to understand this tangled web whose threads pulled tighter as the truth loomed ever darker. And in that chaos, he realized something even more horrifying. Maybe Emily was not the only one hiding secrets. As fear gnawed at him, he wondered what truths lay buried within his own life, waiting for the right moment to explode. William stumbled back, eyes darting through the chaos, everything swirling around him. The air was thick with smoke and screams, each one a dagger piercing his heart. Emily was out there, lost in the madness, but that woman's words echoed in his head like a siren. Dark ties? What kind of family did she come from? Just as he turned to push through the crowd, a massive shove from behind sent him crashing to the ground. He hit the pavement hard, the pain sharp and immediate. Stunned, he looked up and saw figures rushing through the chaos. They were dressed in black, faces obscured by dark masks. What the hell? He gasped, panic rising. They were police. They were something else. Something dangerous. People screamed and ran, scattering like leaves in a windstorm. William crawled back to his feet, heart pounding. He needed to find Emily, but the figures moved with purpose, cutting through the crowd, heading straight for where Jeremiah lay. "Get down!" an officer yelled, but it was too late. The dark figures were upon Jeremiah. "Stop! Get away from him!" William shouted. But they were upon him now, crowding, pushing, hostile. He felt freezing dread as one of them turned, a glint of metal in their hands. "William!" Emily's voice cut through the din. He turned just in time to see her streaking through the chaos, desperation etched on her face. "Emily, no!" he yelled, but she didn't hear him. The world moved in slow motion. She reached Jeremiah, dropping to her knees beside him, hands trembling. Tears streamed down her cheeks, blending with the thick smoke that choked the air. "Jeremiah, please, can you hear me?" But just then, one of the masked figures reached for Jeremiah, and something in William snapped. With a surge of adrenaline, he surged forward, pushing through bodies, rage fueling him. "Let him go!" He shoved one of the masked figures, but instead of backing down, they turned. That's when the chaos cracked wide open. A second figure whipped around, voice cold and steady. "You should have stayed out of this, William." His heart sank. How did they know his name? As if reading his mind, the second figure stepped closer, lifting their mask just enough for William to see their eyes. Dark, familiar. "Lena?" The words slipped out before he could think. Lena, his childhood friend, the girl who had vanished years ago, the girl he had searched for. "You're involved in this." A wicked smile spread across her face. "If you only knew, sweet William, I've always been involved. It's time for you to learn the truth about your precious Emily." "What truth?" Panic clawed at him as he glanced back at Emily, still cradling her brother. "Look, closer," she snapped. And suddenly, there was a flash of recognition. An image from old news reports filled his mind. Honor student missing. Linked to a criminal group. Emily's eyes in photos from long ago. No, it can't be. The realization hit him like a punch. Emily wasn't just a girl hiding her past. She was part of that world, the criminal empire. The darkness Lena hinted at wasn't just some family ties. It was her life. "Emily!" he cried again, voice cracking with desperation. But Lena stepped closer, lowering her voice to a whisper. Almost dramatic. "She played you, William. All your love, all those sweet moments, a game. There's no escape from what she is." The ground felt like it was crumbling beneath him. Confusion, betrayal, and a dizzying sense of dread flooded his system. "Stop! You're lying!" But the tremor in his voice betrayed him. The noise around them faded, William drowning in his revelation. Emily was still there, pained and struggling, but was everything they shared a lie? Lena's eyes sparkled with triumph, each word rolling off her tongue like poison. "You'll see soon enough. The ties that bind her will drag you both down. No one escapes." His heart raced, fear and heartbreak mingling violently within him. Who was he supposed to trust? The woman he loved, or the shadows of that impossible past? And before he could grasp any semblance of reality, sirens echoed louder, and new figures emerged from the smoke, heading straight for them. No more time. The stakes had skyrocketed. "Run!" he shouted to Emily, hoping against hope they could flee this nightmare together. But as the smoke parted, the unexpected sight knocked the wind from him. There, standing amidst the chaos, was her mother, the woman he saw in old pictures, looking every bit the leader of the very shadows he feared. Empty eyes locked onto his, and just like that, the final strands of his reality unraveled. "What have you done, Emily?" he whispered, voice shrouded in disbelief. The twisted web of secrets tightened around them, each revelation pulling them further into a darkness he might never escape. And suddenly, they were trapped. Not just in the chaos of the street, but in a life he had never wanted, a truth far too heavy for anyone to bear. William's heart raced, confusion blooming into fear as he stood frozen, the chaos around him blurring into a haze. Emily's brother lay motionless, and the anger crackling from the woman was like an electric shock jolting through the crowd. "Who are you?" he managed to repeat, his voice barely above a whisper, thick with dread. Her crooked smile only deepened, teeth flashing like daggers. "Did you really You have no idea what she's hiding. No idea the truth will come for you both, eventually." Yet, before he could challenge her, a deafening siren pierced the air, louder than the last. Police cars screeched to a halt, their lights cutting through the night like a knife. Officers jumped out, shoving through onlookers with urgency, faces set with grim determination. A knot of panic twisted in William's stomach. "Stay back!" a commanding voice boomed from the officers as they pushed him and Emily aside. But William couldn't ignore the woman. "What do you mean, truth? What have you done?" he shouted, desperation seeping through him. Just then, a dull thud echoed in the distance, and suddenly, a massive explosion erupted behind them. Flames, smoke, debris, flying everywhere. The world tilted, chaos spiraling out of control. "William!" Emily screamed as she stumbled back, falling to the ground. He rushed to her side. The air was thick with chaos, yet all he could focus on was Emily's frightened gaze. The fire casting harsh shadows on her face. Then, through the smoke, something emerged. Figures cloaked in shadows rushed into the fray, moving with an unsettling fluidity, their intentions unclear. Its menacing presence sent chills down his spine. But what followed next was more horrifying. "Emily!" one of the figures shouted, voice piercing the din. It was a man, tall and imposing, eyes hidden behind a mask, but unmistakably familiar. "Derek!" Emily exclaimed, her eyes going wide, recognition sparking terror within them. William's heart sank. "Get out of here, now!" Derek commanded, voice strained with urgency. Before anyone could argue, Emily was on her feet, desperately trying to move towards him. "Wait, what are you?" William shouted, but before he could finish, the ground shook again. Another blast rocked the street, this one closer, scattering the crowd into panic. He grabbed Emily's arm. "We need to go, now!" But as they turned, Derek moved quickly, stepping directly in their path. Tension crackling in the air. "You don't have a clue, do you?" "What do you mean?" William couldn't mask his fury now. "What's happening?" "And what about you?" Derek sneered. "You think you're the hero? You've stepped into a war, and you don't even know the rules." Then the unexpected happened. Just as William opened his mouth in confusion, he felt a sharp pain in his side. Air escaped him in a gasp as he looked down to find Emily staring wide-eyed at him, an ice-cold knife pressed against him. "Emily?" he choked out, disbelief flooding his voice. "I'm sorry," she whispered, tears streaming. But something in her eyes was different, something dark and filled with regret. "Why?" His voice trembled with betrayal, heart racing in confusion. It shattered him. But before she could respond, Derek lunged forward, grabbing Emily's wrist, pulling her away. "You can't hesitate. We need to go, now!" William staggered, the world spinning as pain coursed through him. The faces around them morphed into a blur of horror and despair. In that moment, everything he thought he knew shattered. Emily was not the woman he loved. She was something else, something hidden beneath layers of deception. "Get away from her!" he yelled, longing for the warmth of her embrace, the laughter they once shared. But there was no time for love, only a stark reality he never prepared for. As they turned to flee, flashes of bright light erupted from the police cars, illuminating the darkened street. Sirens blared louder, chaos swallowing them whole. A scream shattered the air, echoing in agony. William felt his soul fracture as he realized he was losing her forever. "Emily!" he called one last time, desperation clawing at his chest. And just as he thought he could almost grasp her, everything blurred into chaos. The scene erupted, a dark truth, a betrayal, a scar deeper than he could comprehend. William stood alone, trapped in a nightmare of secrets that twisted around him, waiting to be unraveled. His mind raced, but one question loomed larger than the rest. How deep did the shadows go? William's heart thundered, panic gripping him as he stood in the swirling chaos. The crowd was alive, simmering with fear and confusion. And yet, all he could think of was Emily, lost and alone, among the tumbling bodies and violent noise. He pushed his way through the mass of people. "Emily," he called, voice cracking, but each second felt like a lifetime. The air smelled burnt, a thickness that choked him. Just then, he spotted a glimpse of her frizzy hair. Emily! But she was gone again, swallowed by chaos. He cursed under his breath, legs pounding the pavement until he reached the edge of the confusion. Around him, people screamed, sirens wailed, and smoke billowed like a drowning cloud. Then he saw her, not just Emily, but Derek too. They were huddled close, just out of reach. William's heart leaped. "No!" he shouted, instincts roaring. Suddenly, from behind him, another figure darted through the crowd. Someone familiar. Someone he thought was long gone. It was Lisa, his ex. The last person he expected to see. "William!" she yelled, eyes wide with panic. "You need to get out of here!" "What are you doing here?" he shouted back, confusion adding to his frantic state. But before she could respond, the same dark figure from before appeared, striking Derek with brutal force. The crowd gasped, shock and fear rippling through them like a shockwave. And then it happened. A blinding flash lit the night, and the world exploded in sound and fury. William felt the ground tremble beneath him. An unsettling feeling clawed at him as he turned to Lisa. "What's going on?" he spat, heart racing. "Just run!" she screamed. And without thinking, he grabbed her hand, urgency propelling them forward. But he hadn't realized what followed. The chaos had brought something darker. Behind him, the dark figures began moving en masse, slipping through the crowd like shadows come to life. "Emily!" William shouted again, but the world around him grew distorted under the weight of fear. Lisa tugged at him hard, dragging him along, but then something snapped. A man shouted, "They've got guns! Get down!" Time froze. Confusion filled the air as William turned. He saw Emily in the distance, light shining against the gloom, and at that moment, it felt like everything slowed. Just as he reached to call her name, something unexpected pierced the air. A deafening gunshot, echoing like shattered glass. He turned instinctively, but not in time to shield his ears. The bullet didn't find him. Instead, it struck Derek, who fell like a rag doll, lifeless against the pavement. "Derek!" Emily screamed, jumping to him. But William's heart plummeted. The sight of it sent shockwaves coursing through him. But then the realization hit. Whoever had shot him didn't care about the crowd. It was a calculated attack, a strategy unfolding like a snake ready to strike. "Run!" William shouted, pulling on Lisa, desperate to get away. But Emily didn't move, paralyzed by disbelief. Echoes of fear dancing in her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" She knelt next to Derek, shock transforming her features. Then, miraculously, from the tangled mess of bodies, a flicker of movement caught William's eye. It was someone else, another figure in dark clothing slipping through the madness, headed straight for Emily. William's heart wrenched. No! In an instant, the figure lunged, and the flash of metal glinted in the chaos. Everything screamed in slow motion. As he shouted, "Emily, look out!" And just like that, the world shattered again. When Emily turned, a strangled cry escaped her lips, and William charged forward, adrenaline surging. He reached her just as the figure swung the knife. In a split second, he grappled with the assailant, pain twisting at his side as he pushed hard against the dark figure's weight. Then, in the midst of the turmoil, another voice rang out, cold and commanding, cutting through the chaos. "Stop, all of you." It was Emily's mother stepping into the light like a specter of doom. But what froze William's blood was the ominous flare of recognition in her eyes. "I wouldn't do that if I were you, William," she said, voice low and dangerously poised. At that moment, it clicked. The deep ties Emily had, the legacy she carried. Everything spun into a dizzying blur of betrayal. "No," he whispered, truth crashing down like thunder. It wasn't just Emily who hid secrets. Her family held them close. And in this moment of horror, he felt the walls close in around him. "Now you see the truth," her mother taunted, stepping closer, and William's mind raced with disbelief. But before he could react, a sudden flash of light consumed him. Darkness wrapping around him as Emily's scream echoed, bounding through the clamor, dragging him down with it. He was lost, tangled in secrets, horrors unfolding, and the truth unraveling like a dark tapestry behind everything they thought they knew. It was like something out of a horror film. For a heartbeat, everything stopped, and then a deafening explosion shattered the stillness. Sound and fury exploded all around him, the ground shaking, air igniting with heat. William stumbled back, eyes wide with disbelief, as fire surged toward them, licking at their heels. "Emily!" he shouted, voice cracking, tearing through the tumult like a desperate plea. As the flames spread, shadows twisted in the light, cloaked figures darting through the chaos. Fear clutched at him, turning his stomach into knots. Amid the confusion, he spotted her, Emily, but she was standing still, transfixed, eyes locked on her mother. That familiar face became a mask of calm in the storm, a shadow of the warmth William knew. "Emily, get down!" he yelled, fear rising like bile. But she didn't move, anchored by something darker, an understanding woven through bloodlines. "Don't listen to him. Stay with me," her mother commanded, tone as icy as the night air. Suddenly, a figure stumbled through the chaos, a man, torn-bodied, barely standing. It struck William like lightning. Familiar features contorted in pain. Jeremiah, her brother. He limped towards them, blood running freely from a deep gash across his forehead. A gasp breaching William's chest. "Help!" Derek cried out, but the chaos swallowed the sound. But Jeremiah wasn't there for help. "Get away from her!" he choked, and suddenly everything shifted. Jeremiah raised a gun, hands trembling, but the aim was at Emily's mother, not William. "You did this!" The gasps swept through the crowd, collective horror painting the chaos with shades of despair. Time seemed to stretch. Each second felt eternal, the world tilting off its axis. "Jeremiah, no!" Emily screamed, a desperate cry, one that echoed through the thick air as the shadows around them flickered menacingly. "Stop it!" he roared, but a sudden shot echoed again. This time, a sharp crack that sent bodies tumbling to the ground in shock. William felt his heart stutter. Above the cries and chaos, he caught sight of a slumped figure. Lena, his childhood friend, the knife he remembered so vividly, buried deep into her side. "No! No! No!" he screamed, running toward her, desperate to reach her before the darkness consumed her completely. But as he reached her, the unmistakable flash of cold metal struck him. The gun barely recoiled in Jeremiah's hand as absurdity played out. "Why?" he gasped, looking between them, incredulity mixing with fear, rattling through him. Emily stood frozen, her world unraveling as truths unfolded like a vicious wound, everything crashing down around them. "William, stay back!" she shouted, urgency threading her voice with panic. "Stay back?" he echoed, confusion swirling with adrenaline. Talent he never knew he had ignited within him. "We need to help her!" But Jeremiah's voice came out like a growl. "You don't know the truth about her. She's the reason we're all in this mess." "No, stop lying," Emily cried, tears streaming. Dread pounded his chest as realization eclipsed them. The threads holding them together frayed and snapped. It was a trap. The truth had always been lurking, weaving shadows into their light. Just then, another chilling crack of gunfire rang through the air. It didn't seem to belong to anyone. A betrayal of reality closed in around them. The smoke coiled tighter, obscuring everything in a heat haze that twisted reality. The streets turned surreal, and suddenly, shadowy figures surged toward them again. Bullets thundered, and William's world turned a whirl. Light around them flickered like memories fading away, torn from existence in a flash. But through it all, there was Emily, real, raw, and achingly human, standing between William and everything he breathed. William looked at her, panic flooding his veins. "We need to get out!" But in that heartbeat, the world exploded. A blinding flash filled the sky, and darkness swirled like a creature freed from its bonds. The air thickened, stinging his eyes, and in that moment of destruction, a figure emerged, the true orchestrator of the chaos. "Hello, William," her voice rang out, a melody twisted with malice. It was Emily's mother, but she was transformed. The gleam in her eyes was dark, twisted with power and secrets. "Did you really think I'd let you choose her over this?" In that instant, reality shattered again. The truth cascaded around him like falling glass. His heart fought against the grip of despair, rattling his resolve. William was now caught in the web of not just Emily's past, but the echo of secrets so deep all the while. Emily stood there, unyielding and fierce, and in this storm, he felt the shadows closing in, wrapping tightly around them both. William could feel the weight of fate pressing down. Was there a way out, or were they both destined to fall into the darkness together? William felt the heat from the fire vibrate against his skin, but the real fire inside him was rage mixed with fear. Emily's mother stepped closer, black eyes never wavering, a queen in her own twisted kingdom. "You're just a pawn in this game, William," she warned, voice low and dangerous. But he couldn't focus on her. All he could see was Emily. The look of betrayal on her face was like a knife. Could everything they shared have been a lie? "Emily!" he shouted again, desperate, but she only blinked at him, tears shimmering in her gaze. Behind her, Jeremiah groaned, clutching his bleeding arm. Everything felt like it was teetering on the edge of a cliff. But right when it looked like chaos would take them, a sudden quiet fell over the crowd. It was eerie, like the calm before a storm. And then a deafening roar erupted overhead as a helicopter burst into view, slicing the thick smoke like a knife. Spotlight beams swept across the chaos, illuminating the panicked faces below. Panic swelled as its shadow hovered ominously over everything, a monstrous silhouette causing everyone to scatter. "Get down!" a voice shouted from the chopper, filled with authority. But before William could process the shift, he felt a hard shove from behind, him crashing into a stranger who was bolting for safety. The world spun. He turned to look for Emily again, heart pounding. But when he glanced back, she was standing frozen, the spotlight casting her in an otherworldly glow. The crowd was becoming a writhing mass, but she remained. Her mother pulled her tighter. "Come on, Emily! We have to go!" he yelled, reaching out. And just as he thought he could reach her, the unexpected happened. A dark figure emerged from the shadows, slipping past Derek's limping body. William felt something shift deep in the pit of his stomach. It was Lena. "Stop!" she shouted, voice razor-sharp, fingers pointing at Emily's mother. "You think you control this?" "What do you know?" her mother retorted, eyes flicking between them. Tension spiraled. He could feel it crackling in the air like electricity. Then, a shocking twist. Lena pulled back her hood, revealing a face he recognized. "This isn't just about your precious family, you know." William's breath caught in his throat. Everything blurred into a whirlpool of confusion, but he saw a flash of anguish on Emily's face. What was Lena talking about? But Lena's voice rose above the chaos. "You're all defined by your choices, Emily, but there's a truth here that none of you see." And then, out of nowhere, a final, shocking revelation burst forth from Lena's lips, punctuated by an echoing silence. "You're not even related to your mother, Emily. She adopted you to gain power over her enemies." Time froze. William felt his heart drop. The world spun as the words sank in. The air grew heavy with disbelief. The woman he loved wasn't who she thought she was. "No, that can't be true," Emily whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks, eyes wide with the truth crashing down around her like shattered glass. But there was no time for reassurance. The helicopter's spotlight bounced crazily across the street, illuminating dark figures behind Emily's mother. The masked men were closing in, stealthy predators shadowing their prey. "Run!" William shouted again. But his own heart raced with the fear of what would happen next. Would her world unravel completely? Was this truth something too heavy to bear? As Emily's world spun into a vortex of shattered assumptions, the stage was set for devastation, and they were all caught in the center of it, teetering on the brink. What if everything they built was crumbling? What if the past held secrets that not even Emily could escape? The darkness tightened its grip, and as the helicopter roared above, a chilling dread settled in his bones. Would they survive this storm, or had their secrets finally crossed the line, marking them for destruction? The chaos erupted around them, smoke blurring the lights overhead. Emily's mother stood like a statue, poised, unyielding, while questions swirled in William's mind like a violent storm. What secrets are you still hiding? He was barely aware of the shouting or the crowd closing in. Enough, Emily yelled, breaking through the fog of uncertainty. No more lies. Her voice rang out, trembling yet fierce, eyes shimmering with anger and hurt. But even as she spoke, William felt the tension crackle like electricity in the air. Suddenly, the helicopter overhead flashed down a spotlight, sweeping across their faces, illuminating the scene like a terrible play. It seemed to light up every secret, every betrayal, and hang it out for the world to see. He could see every emotion etched on Emily's face. Confusion, betrayal, pain, all of it swirling together into a mix too heavy to bear. A figure stumbled from the crowd, their clothes torn and dirt streaked. William squinted, heart pounding. Was it a friend? Another threat? But the world blurred as the figure pushed through, unsteady but fierce. It was Jeremiah, Emily's brother. "Let her go!" he shouted, voice raw. He reached for Emily, but faltered, blood still leaking from his wound. The sight of him made William's heart race. "We have to get out of here." But before anyone could react, another explosion erupted nearby, sending shockwaves through the ground. The crowd gasped in unison, panic ripping through them like wildfire. A piece of debris shot forth, hitting Jeremiah and knocking him backward. "No!" Emily screamed as she lunged toward him. But in that moment of chaos, everything slowed down. The helicopter's whirring became a murmur, and William's focus sharpened on Emily's mother. Her expression twisted, dark, and malevolent. "You think this is the end? It's only just begun," she hissed, eyes narrowing as if she held the strings to a much darker game. Then, a blinding light flashed, a gunshot. Time stood still. A bullet pierced the air and struck Emily's mother in the shoulder. She fell, a shocked expression crossing her face, hands clutching at the fresh wound, eyes wide with realization. The crowd gasped, and confusion erupted. Who fired? Where did it come from? From the chaos stepped Lena, holding a smoking gun, eyes shadowed by fury. "I didn't want it to end like this, but you left me no choice," she shouted. "You think I'm in this for you? You're naive." The air thickened with tension. William felt all eyes on them, disbelief painting expressions across the crowd. What was happening? Each revelation descended like a stone into the water, rippling further and deeper. Emily's voice trembled. "Why, Lena? Why betray us?" But Lena just laughed, a cruel sound echoing in the air. "Because none of you are who you think you are." She turned to the crowd. "You have no idea how deep the lies go. Emily is just the tip of the iceberg." "What do you mean?" William felt sick, disorientation swirling in the pit of his stomach. Lena stepped closer. "You think your precious Emily is just a victim? She is the very reason this chaos exists. Her blood ties don't lead to her mother. They lead to this world." "Lies, all lies!" Emily screamed, but doubt crept into her voice. "It's the truth, sweetheart," Lena spat. "The sooner you accept it, the better." And just like that, everything shattered. Emily staggered back, fingers trembling as they brushed against her mother. still clutching her injury. The painful truth settled around them, heavy and suffocating. William felt everything turn upside down. Was Emily really part of the very darkness they were fighting against? Or was this all an elaborate tactic? Confusion blurred into horror as reality crashed down around them. Who could he trust anymore? What if he had built his world, his love, on lies? The helicopter, hovering above, began to tilt, the pilot monitoring the chaos. Just when it seemed they might find a way out, a new danger emerged. "This isn't over," Lena warned, tone laced with something darker. Then the unthinkable happened. The helicopter began to spin out of control, spiraling toward the ground, and with it, the revelation hung in the air. A promise of devastation. William's heart sank. "Get back! Everyone, get down!" he shouted, but the chaos was relentless. In that moment, with the helicopter spiraling into a crash, the ground trembled beneath them. What would become of them? What secrets still lay in the dark corners of their lives, swirling like smoke in the confusion? All he knew was fear gripped him tighter than the smoke that wrapped around the city, and uncertainty gnawed at his heart. Everything was about to change, whether they were ready or not. The explosion lit the night sky like a dying star, flames licking at the air, smoke billowing into ominous clouds. Everyone screamed, scrambling for safety, their faces painted with terror. William turned to Emily, shock etched on both their faces. "Emily, we have to get out!" he yelled, panic tightening his chest. But she remained frozen, staring at her mother, who was on the ground, bleeding and furious. "Don't move, Emily!" her mother hissed, voice cold, eyes still sharp with control. "Mom!" Emily's voice cracked, a mix of fear and loyalty. "You can't just—" A loud thud silenced her. It was Jeremiah, coughing and struggling to rise. "It's too late for her," he gasped, seeping blood, desperation clawing at his words. "She's pulled us into this. We can't save her." "Stop!" Emily cried, a storm brewing inside her, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You're my family!" But everything was unraveling before their eyes. The crowd was a wild river now, flowing away from the chaos, but William remained. He couldn't leave her. "We can still escape! We can rebuild!" he shouted. But it felt weak, desperate. Just then, the helicopter whirled closer, its spotlight sweeping, illuminating the chaos around them, its engine roaring like a beast. The noise drowned everything out. It bore down on them, demanding they confront the truth among the flames. "I don't trust her!" Lena's voice cut loudly from the side, venomous and sure. "She'll never change. She's refuse." The crowd murmured, whispers of doubt cascading like a wave of uncertainty. "Lies!" Emily shouted, but even she could hear the falter in her voice. The flames flickered, shadows dancing ominously around them. Everything spun. Would they fight? Would they flee? Or was it too far gone? William turned back to Emily, holding her gaze as the world around them deteriorated. "We have to decide!" But as he spoke, a trickle of courage turned to ash. The truth hung heavy over them, uncertainty crackling like static. "Do you trust me?" he pressed, desperate for connection. "Yes!" she whispered fiercely, and in that moment, he felt the warmth of their bond, pulling them through the firestorm. A sudden silence crashed over the noise. As the helicopter dipped lower, it was a powerful presence, casting a long shadow over everything, threatening to consume them all. Jeremiah stumbled closer, rage boiling just beneath the surface. "You need to stop! This ends now!" he screamed, shaking with pain, but adrenaline surged through him like a flood. Emily stepped forward, eyes fierce. "I'll decide my own fate," she declared. Then, like a chosen warrior, she turned to her mother, confronting the darkness that had weighed them down. "You don't control me. Not anymore." The intensity in the air shifted, fear mixing with a rush of newfound strength. The crowd held its breath, all eyes on them. "Emily," her mother started, voice softening. "No more," Emily shouted, cutting through. A sudden gunshot rang out, stopping everyone in their tracks. All heads turned as the crowd recoiled, but it wasn't from her mother. With a pang of realization, William saw Lena fall, blood pooling beneath her. "Why?" Emily gasped, hands shaking at her sides. William felt his heart drop, but then he squeezed Emily's hand, grounding them both. "We have to go. Now!" With tears streaming down her face, Emily pulled away, looking at the chaos, at her brother, at Lena's still body. "No, there's too much at stake." But William gripped her firmly, a surge of determination in his chest. "We can make a new story, together." Time felt suspended, the weight of their decisions pressing heavily on their shoulders. And just like that, the crowd erupted again, movement shifting like a tide preparing to swallow them. "Do you trust me, Emily?" he asked, swallowing down his own fear, searching her eyes. "Yes," she replied, certainty blooming between them like hope amid despair. They turned together, running into the thick smoke, heartbeats matching in rhythm, racing toward the uncertain future ahead. They might not know what waited for them beyond the chaos, but together they would face whatever came. The truth still lurked, shadows dancing on the periphery of their world. But for now, they had each other. As they plunged into the unknown, a voice echoed behind them, harsh and full of venom. "This isn't over." And somewhere amid the fire and darkness, William felt a spark of something. Hope? Maybe. They were alive. And alive meant they could change. But what waited in that looming horizon? You need to keep up with every twist and turn in this gripping saga. Immediately subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on all the upcoming exclusive stories. Smash that like button now. Feed the algorithm to help us grow. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this finale. What did you think? Who or what is really behind Emily's past? Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to know this ending. Don't wait 1 second longer to spread the word. Every fan counts.